Picture this, dear viewers. You're 12 years old in 2004, tuning into Animax, and all of a sudden, a show starring characters who are between humans and angels, although they don't fly, manages to captivate you. What you're captivated with is not only the overall appeal of the show and how much it feels calming and soothing to you, especially if you're having a pretty rough day at school or you just want to tune into something that calms your nerves. You're also blown away by the amazing animation and world building, which is almost reminiscent of Renaissance paintings or paintings done by Monet or even Vincent van Gogh, and you're totally transfixed with everything that the visuals had to offer, as well as the characters that you cannot find yourself but appreciate, care for, and understand with every single fiber of your being. And the overall appeal, let alone the overall amazement and great satisfaction that you have for this show, is not only guaranteed when you're still young, but also holds up to this day as a grown-up. That's the same experience I received with Haibane Renmei, a show that I caught on Animax in 2004 that I still admire to this very day as a grown-up and cherish with every single fiber of my being. This is an anime that took me seriously back then when I was a 12-year-old sixth grader, and it still takes me more seriously now as a grown-up because I understand its themes. I was able to be thoroughly engaged with what the characters were going through, and this was something that I consider to be extremely precious and something that I utterly respect to this very day. From the moment I saw the opening, which was this lush orchestral piece full of violins or strings, and then it all culminates with the piano playing, it just shows you right there that a fine piece of art can make anybody's day, and therefore make something absolutely brilliant. And it only ran for 13 episodes, which just also shows that the quality that Haibane Renmei mustered definitely outweighed the quantity of episodes. So what I got from Haibane Renmei was a superb package full of depth, profundity, beauty, excellence, and great character studies and writing that managed to make the show thoroughly strong. The basic premise of Haibane Renmei concerns Raka, a new Haibane or human-angel hybrid who is adapting to her life in the old city, especially when she is surrounded by fellow Haibane, the more experienced but jaded and ambiguously sighted Reki, who also has a habit of smoking a lot and also has a bit of a tough past and also feels like she is dealing with something that she cannot escape. The sleepy yet big sisterly / motherly Nemu, who is very caring and has a sort of motherly attitude towards her fellow Haibane. Kana, who is the spunky, outspoken, and hardworking Haibane, Haku, who is sweet, innocent, and childlike, and who also forms a rather sisterly bond with Raka, and the clever and sweet Hikari. These characters manage to find their ways, let alone live life as Haibane, but they also become acquainted with the mysteries surrounding the old town, and especially when they also have to deal with some of their fellow Haibane about to transition to the next life, which in their terms is taking flight. So what I received from 13 episodes of Haibane Renmei is strong quality writing, characters that I deeply cared for, plots that were not too extravagant, and an overall down-to-earth feeling that took me seriously as a viewer and respected my intelligence every time I watched it. This is one of the purest, cleanest, and most thought-provoking anime series that I still managed to respect when I was a child, and I still love it to this day as a grown-up. This is something I would show to anybody who wants to have something philosophical, something that deals with how life is fleeting and the importance of having friends or found family or a strong support system. It also deals with the spirit, the inevitability of life, and just how ephemeral it is and how unpredictable it is until it's too late. And it also deals with the values and the very Christian values of sin and redemption. It also has that Christian-like message about repentance and repenting from one's sins and finding redemption, which were part of the heartbeats that made me appreciate Haibane Renmei a lot more as a grown-up, because it's the depth without being too soapboxy or too pretentious that made me love Haibane Renmei with every single fiber of my being. It had characters I deeply cared for, and it had an art style that was so pleasing to the eyes and a soundtrack that was also extremely pleasing to the ears. I found myself understanding where Raka was coming from, being in a strange new place with people that she barely knew, yet has also found herself making some genuine acquaintances with, and also trying to understand what makes some of those people tick, especially when it comes to her bond with Reki. And Raka's bond with Reki is what I consider to be absolutely precious, deep, and so full of nuance and subtlety. In fact, subtlety is the strong point of what makes Haibane Renmei absolutely brilliant and absolutely masterful as a piece of work. It is also through Raka's journey from being this young girl, very curious of the world around her, to also dealing with her own troubles, to finding some level of emotional maturity that she was able to grow on me as a character. Then you also have Reki, who is sort of like the rebel, but is also very warm on the inside. Don't let her biker girl, smoker girl, and overall punk girl attitude fool you. She has a soft spot, but it's not always that obvious. She also has a strong caring spot on the inside, especially when it comes to her bond with Raka. And that's something about Reki that I continue to admire so darn much because of just how nuanced and multifaceted she is as a character. Ku is absolutely precious. She does start off as a sort of little sister figure to Raka, but when her day of flight has come, we understand that Raka feels very lonely without Ku, because Ku is essentially the light of not only the show, but I would even argue the light of everybody who meets her, from Raka to Reki to Hikari to Kanna to Nemu. Everybody was pretty much touched by Ku's innocence and lovability, and that's something that I consider to be absolutely precious and thoroughly loving about her. There is not one single bad bone in her body, and I definitely enjoyed her for it, and her presence was a thoroughly warm and welcome one. I also must give it to the likes of Nemu and her warm, big sisterly appeal, Kanna, and her overall spunk and her willingness to get things done, and Hikari for being also such a pragmatic, if not kind of naive, but very loving individual. So all the characters in Haibane Renmei are thoroughly lovable. I still cherish them to this day, and there's also something that managed to make them thoroughly memorable. Even the more mysterious characters, such as the guards people, who mainly speak in signs, are also something worth watching, or also someone worth watching, because of just how they serve as this bridge between what is deemed safe and pleasant to what is mysterious and unknown. And that's not always the line that most characters, let alone the Haibane, are going to cross unless they face some really serious consequences. And that's just something about Haibane Renmei that still managed to hold up to this day. Wonderfully relatable characters, an art style that is so pleasing to the eye, and the openings and ending themes that managed to make me thoroughly love this anime. And the music as a whole managed to use a great deal of what I would like to call Celtic music, some classical pieces, and the overall mutedness of it all, from the art style to the music, managed to make Haibane Renmei a welcome treat, but also a thought-provoking one, considering that it also deals with life, mortality, found family, and spirituality. In fact, its strength really was in its usage of spirituality to make viewers not only question the characters, but eventually question themselves and their worth as people, and if there ever is something beyond their mortal world. And that's what Haibane Renmei managed to accomplish for me. It made me learn to look beyond what is in the flesh. It made me think about that there are other bigger things at work, let alone greater powers at work, that may not always be explained at the drop of a hat, but they're there. And it's also with faith that the seen, let alone the invisible, are present. And that's something that made Haibane Renmei a lot stronger in my eyes, especially when it comes to the intersectionality of the ephemeral sensation of life with the strength and the importance of spirituality and the bonds and genuine bonds made with friends, found family, or family as a whole. And Raka's whole journey from being this youthful and very insecure and jovial young girl to being a self-sacrificing young woman is something that made the storytelling and the overall messages of Haibane Renmei a lot stronger. I also have to give it to both the Japanese and the English voice actors for doing so superbly in their respective roles. Yes, on the Japanese side, you have the likes of Ryo Hirohashi as Raka, who was just so amazing in this role, considering that she was able to provide an innocent and sweetness to her voice that made her absolutely brilliant. And that innocent sweetness and that girlish beauty that Ryo Hirohashi managed to accomplish were absolutely unparalleled. Junko Noda provided a lot of nuance and depth to Reki, to the point where I understood her pain and her regrets, as well as kind of masking it in this tough girl attitude. But all the same, the nuance that she was able to provide was absolutely brilliant. You even have Akiko Yajima as Ku, who was absolutely lovely. Kazu Samurai as Nemu. And there were also some fine works done by Tamio Oki. And basically, the Japanese voice acting was superb. But I also have to give it to the English dub for being just as superb. I mean, Carrie Savage as Raka. She was just as lovely and innocent sounding and really beautiful in a girlish way as this iconic Haibane. And Miss Savage's sweet tone and girlish beauty made Raka a very fascinating and intriguing character to root for and understand. Then you also have Erica Lanehart as Reki, who was able to provide her with all of this mysteriousness, but also an edge about her that makes you understand and want to get to know more about her. There was also Hunter Mackenzie Austin as Hikari. Her sweetness and her eloquence are absolutely unbeatable. And the overall performances from both tracks are just as brilliant, just as nuanced, and just as amazing from beginning to end. Haibane Renmei is definitely an experience never to be missed. If you have not seen this anime, or if you have not experienced this anime for yourself, please take the time, the patience, and the open-mindedness to tune into what Haibane Renmei has to offer. I guarantee you that it will take you seriously as a viewer. The experience will be very powerful for 13 episodes, and it will make you question yourself a lot more, question your finiteness in life, and also make sure that you also make the best of it with every single fiber of your being, with your friends, your family, your found family, or the people that you genuinely care for. That's definitely what Haibane Renmei can do. And its depth, its profundity, and its beauty can never, ever be questioned. You also have to give it to Yoshitoshi Abe for crafting such a wonderful piece of work. The fact that this was based on a doujinshi was also something incredible, let alone revelatory, because when you think of anime based on doujinshi, you don't expect much. But this one is a clear example of great craftsmanship and an amazing attention to detail that cannot and will not ever be paralleled. And I'm sure that a good chunk of you have experienced Haibane Renmei for yourself, whether you were a young viewer in your tweens or in your teens, in your formative years, or these days as an adult, rediscovering anime. Please let me know in the comments below. What was your experience, let alone viewing experience, with Haibane Renmei like? Was it revelatory? Did it make you feel a lot of emotions that you never felt before? Did it make you care for the characters that you never thought you would care before, but then find yourself really rooting for them? Did you also feel that the messages that Haibane Renmei offered were done in a respectful manner and made you question yourself a lot more, made you question the characters a lot more, and made you a much deeper thinker? And was there also an appeal that made Haibane Renmei one of the best of all time? Please let me know in the comments below. It's also no wonder why Haibane Renmei ranked so high in my top 15 favorite anime series of all time 11 years ago. Granted, I know that list could use a little bit of changes from here and there, but at least with Haibane Renmei ranking pretty high, which I believe it was number 4 in my countdown, that really says a lot because of how much it respected me as a viewer, how much its characters made a strong impact on my life growing up, and really shaped my tastes in anime to show that anime is not always about the fan service or the bombastic speeches or the bombastic action scenes. It's also pieces like Haibane Renmei that show the quieter moments, the more solemn moments, and the more thought-provoking moments that can be able to appeal to any viewer to think a lot more about what they've seen, and also see the value in not only its aesthetics, but also its beautiful messaging, as well as its overall impact as a viewer. Therefore, Haibane Renmei will always be gold in my eyes, and I'm sure that Haibane Renmei will also be golden in your eyes too. Take care, everybody, and have a pleasant spring season.